It's January 11th, 2018, and I'm standing knee-deep in a tangled stew of mud, sewage, rocks, and fallen trees. In fact, I'm not just standing, I'm stuck. A moment ago, I lost my footing as I tried to walk across a 2x4, and when I slipped, the thick mud underneath sucked me in like quicksand. Yet, trying to dig myself out of the mud in that moment wasn't my biggest concern. My biggest concern was that I was expecting to find a dead body inside the house that was in front of me. 48 hours earlier, the community of Santa Barbara suffered what's been called a debris flow. That name is inadequate. A ½ inch of rain in under 5 minutes overwhelmed the mountains above town, causing a downhill torrent of boulders the size of semi-trucks, thick eucalyptus trees, and viscous mud that wiped out entire neighborhoods, tore homes clean off their foundations, and killed 23 people. So here I am, 2 days after this disaster, sinking in the front yard of this house. I was there because a report had come in of a body that had possibly been left behind by first responders who were anxious and frantic to find live victims. Along with some others, we tried to force the front door open, but 3 feet of mud made that impossible. So we broke a small window to get inside. I am a deputy sheriff in the state of California. I'm a cop, and often referred to as a first responder in a communal title that includes fire and emergency medical personnel. And with this title, I'm granted access to witness inspiring acts of bravery and courage by fellow first responders on a regular basis. I am proud beyond words for my association with this group. Even with all our tools and resources, we're limited in what we can accomplish in the wake of a disaster. We all carry the tools of our chosen professions. As a cop, I carry the tools for the job I'm sworn to do. And firemen carry hoses and axes, and medics carry medicine and bandages. And together, we form society's safety net. Like any net, it's filled with holes. Who is there to catch the people that fall through our net? Stuck in the mud of that house, the enormity of this disaster begins to overwhelm me. The house across the street from me is missing its living room. Around the corner from here, a man who just had his house destroyed found a baby alive in the mud. 2 doors up from me, the house, what's left of it, has a car in front that's so mangled that the front and back wheels are touching. North of me, the doctor who operated on my own hand died with his daughter, who was home from college. That street that I was sinking on had become a temporary burial ground. When we finally broke our way into the home, I was relieved to find that it was actually empty, and I later learned that the victim was resting in the hospital. How are these people going to get their lives back in order? And where will they even start? And what's needed to rebuild a community? Well, I looked at my gun belt and at the fire engine out on the street and inside the back of the ambulance. We didn't have what this would require. As I sprayed the mud off me that day, I really had no idea that what this would require was an orange bucket. See, in the days after the disaster, as efforts shifted from rescuing survivors to recovering victims, citizens began showing up with those orange buckets. They were organizing through social media and going out and helping people dig out of their homes, homes that were often filled to the second story with mud. They called themselves the Bucket Brigade, and they quickly swelled to dozens and dozens of members. They even made T-shirts. It was incredibly frustrating to me that these do-gooders were getting in the way of my important work. It looked ridiculous, it really did. An entire mountain, millions and millions of pounds of mud had slid into town, and these people stood at the base of it thinking they were going to help. What can one person do when an entire mountain lands on top of a community? Turns out they can do a lot. I was too wrapped up in the chaos of the event to realize it wasn't about what these people were hauling away in those buckets. It was about what they're bringing in. They're bringing in hope. I am a first responder, and I absolutely love my job. But I also know that I am not enough and that I need help. I need second responders. Our success in our greatest moments of need will always depend on how regular people step into their role as a second responder. When you become a second responder, you become someone's hero. My heroes are the second responders, but I'm worried about them. I'm worried that we're in danger of losing our ability to see these heroes that are all around us. We're at risk of losing the courage to be those heroes that I need, heroes that you might need one day. We should be moving closer to each other at the exact moment that we're actually moving farther away. I'm worried that people are assuming a first responder will be their hero when they're much more likely to need a friend, a neighbor, or a complete stranger. Nobel laureate Romain Rolland said, "A hero is a man who does what he can." I love that. I have, at times, been called a hero, and to me, that label makes me uncomfortable, because I'm simply here doing what I can, defending a constitution that I believe in and a community that I care about. I can do that. This definition of a hero is important because it takes this intimidating label out of the stratosphere and down to eye level, where we begin to see the heroes that are all around us. In this way, we get to see the heroes in the mirror, too. Carlos Arredondo lost his oldest son, Lance Corporal Alex Arredondo, in Iraq in 2004. When the Marines came to his house to give him the news, Carlos locked himself inside their van and set it on fire. The Marines pulled him out, and Carlos regrouped and later committed himself to a life of activism to honor his son. That's what led him to the finish line of the 2013 Boston Marathon, where he jumped into the fray and helped save the life of Jeff Bauman, who had just had both legs amputated by the blast. When he was asked why he did it, Carlos just said, "I just went to help in any way possible." Elvis Summers was a struggling punk rock musician in Los Angeles when he struck up a conversation with a homeless woman he'd seen in the neighborhood. Elvis was offended by the idea that a grandmother was living in the gutter. So he did what any struggling punk rock musician would do. He built her a house. A small one and on wheels, but with a roof and a locking door. Elvis went on to build more of these tiny homes, building a bridge between that gutter and the dignity of having a roof. When he was asked why he did it, he just shrugged and said, "It gives him hope." Like a lot of young kids, 12-year-old Sammy Stryker spent some time this summer at her homemade lemonade stand in Saginaw, Michigan. She's a bit of an entrepreneur, Sammy. This is her third year doing the stand. Back when she was 9, she wanted to buy school clothes with her profits. But then she learned about some injured veterans in her community that couldn't get the medical care they needed. So she started raising money instead. Sammy credits using extra sugar for her success, and in her third year, Sammy raised $2,100 for injured veterans, for people she'd never met, for people who already did what they could. When you do what you can, you become a hero. As a first responder, I've seen sadness and acts of evil that I never want to retell. I've also had a prime seat to witness our need for hope and our collective resilience. The greatest gift of being a first responder has been watching how second responders can come to our aid. Regular people can step into a role and serve something that's larger than themselves, bigger than their own lives, and become someone's hero. Now, these heroes, they function in different ways. So the challenge is usually in convincing you of your heroic status. So to do that, I'm going to put on the first ever Second Responder Academy. Here it is. First, and this is something I learned only a few years ago, and it's absolutely transformed how I do my job as a first responder. The greatest thing about it is that it's just a thought. It doesn't require action, interaction, or reaction. Make a wish for another person that they may find the meaning of happiness. If you're brave, make that wish of happiness for a stranger, the person next to you in traffic, or the beggar on the corner. And if you're bold, make it for the wicked among us. When you do this, it's the first step towards becoming someone's advocate, their teammate. And we're all on the same team. Did you know that we share 99.9% of our DNA with every other human being on Earth? And that we share 60% of our DNA with a banana? So we are not that different, folks. We are clearly in this together. The next step to becoming a second responder is to find the opportunities to lead. And everybody has opportunities to lead. Sometimes it's as easy as being the one to set the example. To me, a guy coaching his daughter's soccer team on the weekends has as much an obligation to be a second responder as I do when I strap on my body armor as a first responder. He's been given the opportunity, the gift of leading young girls for a few hours a week and showing them how they should expect to be treated in the world. Finally, to be a second responder is to simply do what you can. That will mean different things at different times in your life, even day to day. But do what you can. Step up when your community is hurting, when your neighbor's community is hurting, when the youth need guidance and the elderly need friendship. But instead of just being kind, be of service. Ask yourself, how can you be more effective? And then go do what you can. When you do that, you give people hope. So, who fills the holes in that first responder safety net? You do, right? I can't do it without you. The second responders who fill the holes in our net, the people who do what they can, who strive to fill one 5-gallon bucket at a time. I need your help. I need you to be a second responder. I look forward to working with you. Thank you.